Hi everyone, and thanks for joining in. I'm Dom Fenton, the Activity Connector, and welcome to the first official episode of the new podcast, The Power of a Hobby. I'm so excited, I'm so nervous, but you know what? 2021 is the year just to have a go. And that's what I'm doing. I'm having a go. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to have some inspirational people on. And we're starting with the first one. So today we have the one, the only, Dan Sadler. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, Dom. Really great to be here, mate.
So exciting to have you. Thank you very much for agreeing to be on the podcast. As we were briefly talking, first thing I've ever done. So please be kind to me, Dan. And we'll get this flow going, and we'll get.
I'll be
going.
really kind to you. It's the start of great things, mate. Start of great things.
Brilliant. What a place to start. So, for everyone who doesn't know, I've launched a Facebook group called The Power of a Hobby. Now, the podcast called The Power of a Hobby. So, Dan, let's start. So, Mr. Sadler, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners? And a little bit
Absolutely,
about what
yes.
you do.
Okay, of course. I'm Dan Sadler. I am Biohacker Dan, as it says on my tracksuit there. What I do is I help people with their health, their wellness, their weight management, brain fog, pain, immunity, these types of things. I've been doing this now for 5 years, but that's not my complete history. And my history is kind of entwined in hobbies that turned into jobs and hobbies that turned into businesses and stuff. So one of my main hobbies now is actually a job that I'm starting to slow down. Something I've been doing for 25 years, which is teaching music and teaching particularly the steel pan as an instrument, the instrument from Trinidad and Tobago. That started out as a hobby when I was 14 years old, and it slowly took over to become my life. And like literally it's led me all the way around the world, but I'm sure we're going to be digging into that in a moment. But music is still a fundamental part of me. So
yeah, we'll certainly be digging into that because that's what this is about. So, question for you. What does the power of a hobby mean to you?
Okay, well, it's a powerful question. It really is. Hobbies are so powerful. Why are hobbies powerful? Because if you don't have one, firstly, you have no way to release energy. We all spend a lot of time working, particularly if you're working from home or you're working on your business and you have to be the everything to your business, the marketer. You have to find new leads. You have to know how to close sales. You have to send invoices, do your own taxes, all this stuff that's involved around that. So if you don't have some way of kind of letting go, releasing that pressure valve, then you're going to find yourself eventually running headfirst into a brick wall, and it's going to hurt. The hobby is there. It's like a depressurization button on your forehead. If you could just push a button on your forehead that made you go, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? But we don't really have that. So I would say that hobbies are powerful because they're a way to relax, de-stress, get your head out of your life.
Love it. And we've touched on this quite a lot over the time that we've sort of known each other. And that's only been about a year now, coming up to just a year that we've sort of met. And it's great because yes, we both work with children and young people. And it's really, really important. And hobbies are one of those things that to me they embody everything that we do. And it gives us identity and it gives us everything that we work on. So love that answer, Dan. So we talk about relaxation. We talk about being able to de-stress and switch off. So, Mr. Sadler, what is it that you do to switch off and to relax?
What I do, there's multiple things that I like to do to get my head out of the clouds. The first thing, as I said, is to play the steel pan. Sometimes, over the last few years, I've been working so hard at it, and I've traveled all over the world. I've toured in 50 countries. I've performed maybe in 2,000-3,000 schools, and I've possibly taught over 10,000 kids in the last 25 years how to play and to pick it up as a hobby too. But I was neglecting my own playing for such a long time. So what I found is that I was less keen to go over to my steel pan which is just over there in the corner of the room. I don't know if you can see
Love
that.
it. Love it.
So I was just about I used to go over there just to de-stress and play some songs and hit some notes. But what I was finding is that it wasn't relaxing me because it was my job. Fortunately, over the last 5 years, I've managed to slim down what wasn't serving me, which was teaching in schools. And I love education. But for me, the education establishment has changed a lot in the last 25 years. So it didn't resonate with me to be teaching in school. So I've got myself all the way down to 2 days a week. And what I've found is that over the last year or so, I've gotten so much satisfaction from working on some really simple pop numbers or something, just recording out a really simple track and sharing it with my friends, sharing it in the business network, creating a public speaking spot, a foresight about my musical journey. All those things have happened because I found the passion for it again. So now I do go over to the pan and I look forward to rehearsing or composing or arranging a piece of music to play.
Love that. Absolutely love that.
Complete 180. Complete 180. So I didn't mention that the other way that I de-stress and the other way that I like to escape is by going to theme parks. I'm a roller coaster enthusiast, and that's my geek. I don't tell too many people that, but this is about hobbies. But sadly, the theme parks aren't allowing full operations. There's restrictions on not having fun, but I would say there's so many restrictions it would take the fun away for me right now. So that's not an opportunity. So I guess the next step for me is to look for a new hobby.
Yeah, love that. It's really amazing that, some of these things that we do, people would look at as child things. And I'm a big believer that actually, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, we all need hobbies.
Exactly. If your hobby doesn't bring out your inner child, you're doing it wrong or you're not got the right hobby.
We are both, I think we are certainly both big children at heart.
Absolutely.
Have to enjoy ourselves. That's what a hobby is. That's what a hobby is about. So with the music, so how did you get involved in it? How long have you been doing it? If you want to give us a sort of a history about your music and what you've done.
Absolutely, yes. So back in, it was in the 1990s sometime, I think it was about 1993. I was 14 years old and I was musical beyond comprehension for my age. My music teacher was always trying to get me into an instrument. So as a very young man, I tried the flute, and I wanted to learn the flute solo from California Dreaming, and I wanted to play songs that I was singing in the school choir. So I went in and showed the music teacher, my flute teacher, that I'd learned the solo from California Dreaming, and I was playing Cauliflower's Fluffy and Cabbage's Green. Now, bear in mind, I was 7 at that time. And the teacher gave me a slap on the wrist and said, that's not what we do. We're going to learn from the sheet. You're going to learn to blow the flute, hold the flute, learn the key, where the notes are, where to press the buttons. And I lasted about 2 weeks. So I didn't touch another instrument until I was 11. And I went and learned, my music teacher said, oh, you're really musical and rhythmic. This is secondary school now. And she pushed me she asked me what I wanted to do. So I said, let me learn the drum kit. You've got drums. Let me learn the drums. I was so excited to hit a drum kit. So I went off before my first lesson and I got some lessons from another student who was my friend, who was a year above me. And she taught me some beats. She said, oh, I'm going to teach you some stuff. So when you go next week, he's going to think you're really good. So I went in all smiles and happy and look what I can do. And again, that's not what we're doing. But I lasted 2 weeks again. So that fast forward to when I was 14, I passed all the music quizzes with the top marks possible. I'd completed the checklist that we were given in year 7, which is everything you could possibly do, playing all the instruments, learning chords. The only thing I hadn't done was signed off at the bottom, which was perform a gig at the Royal Albert Hall. So at that point, she said to me, you're so musical and you're not doing anything. So she marched me down to the steel band room, pushed me through the door and said, get in there and learn some songs. And literally it was all my friends from my year group. So some of the girls, and I think it was all girls at the time actually. And I was the only boy in the band. So I went into the room and I learned 2 or 3 songs in one session. And that kind of was the start of it. Since then, like I said, I've performed, it's 25 years and I've performed in 50 countries. And I did get to play at the Royal Albert Hall in the end. 3 times, in fact.
Wow. Wow, what a story. So you were talking about traveling. Yes, you've gone to a lot of countries. If we were to look at maybe the top 3 countries that you performed in,
Ooh,
where would they be?
that's such an interesting question, because, you know, every country has its different values, and they have different experiences that go with it. We did a tour in South Africa in 2007, my band. So my school group turned into a community project, which turned into a steel orchestra, which turned into a nationally representing band. So by that point, we toured Grenada, Barbados, all around Europe. I can't even think, South Africa, Nigeria. I've been all over the place, India. South Africa 2007 was special because we sent out some instruments into a township in South Africa, and we sent over some instructional videos, and we had to spend time recording them. It was all good fun. And then we went out with them, but we didn't just go out with the steel band. We took a jazz band from another local school, and they had sent instruments and instructions and tuition over. So we were working with township kids. We had 60 in the traveling party, and then we had about 40 township kids from South Africa joined in with us. And while we were there, they brought in a local township choir, which I've got goosebumps thinking about the harmonies that these guys and girls sing.
I've just got goosebumps just thinking that.
100 of them in the choir, 100, it might be more, it might have been 200. It's a long time ago, but it was a lot of them. So altogether, we were a massive orchestra of a couple of hundred people, and we toured around South Africa, and we took them to their biggest venue, so their Royal Albert Hall, which is called Artscape. We took them to their biggest shopping centre, which is called the VA Waterfront. We took them up the Table Mountain. You know, most of those township kids had never been up Table Mountain. So when we were sightseeing, they were with us. It was just so magical. I need to show you the DVD, Dom. It's just incredible. So that was the best place. And again, I love the Caribbean. It's so relaxed. But there's one tour that just rings out in my mind. I got a phone call in 2015. Can you come to Nigeria next week? And I was like, whoa, okay, all right, Nigeria. This could be challenging. I've never been to Northern African countries, and I'd heard a lot about it. So anyway, I went, and we had the most incredible experience, but we did get downgraded from our promised 5-star presidential hotel. We ended up in a 1-star Ferrari hotel, which had all sorts of antics that you just wouldn't even want to talk about. Yeah, there's lots of things that happened there, but the cockroaches weren't the worst thing. So we ended up playing on a carnival lorry, which we're all used to. But this carnival lorry had holes in it, and it had wooden slats that if you stepped on one end of it, it wasn't nailed the other end. So you could literally fall through the lorry. And most of our equipment got left in Morocco. So we were sat down on pan cases, playing steel pans that were just rested on the wood. It was the hardest experience ever, but it's memorable, and I'll never forget that trip.
It's one of those, and I just think when we find something that we enjoy, when we find something that we become passionate about, that actually, I don't think we ever really look ahead and go, wow, I can't believe it may take us to all these different places. So if you imagine going into that room, learning those songs, yes, it was managed to get to the Royal Albert Hall, which is an amazing venue anyway. But at that point, could you ever imagine that you'd be going to South Africa or going to all these other places?
Do you know what it was for me, Dom? When I started, I wanted to, within months of me starting, I'd noticed that a few of my peers had started to make their own arrangements. So a song that they'd really liked or grown up with or listened to on the radio, this girl, her name was Sonia, she would come in and she would say, right, I want to do this song. And she would teach the parts out. So she'd be teaching the bass pans like the bass guitar line. She'd be teaching the rhythm pans like the strumming chords on the guitar. And I could just see it was like a puzzle that was all separate. And in my mind, it all came together. And I was like, I want to do that. Well, Sonia didn't last that long. She left a few years later. And as soon as she left, it opened up the door. So I became a teacher and I was teaching my peers. I started teaching a little bit at 15, but I was teaching my peers and young kids and adults by the time I was 17. I was actually a fully fledged teacher.
I think it's really quite crazy because we've got a very similar listening to that, we've got quite a similar thing, because when I was at secondary school, I'd already been playing rugby for a number of years, and rugby was my thing. And I started helping coach my rugby team at school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the captain, and people would look to me and all this sort of stuff. And I ended up coaching juniors when I was 18.
Yeah.
Because I'd started so young, I wanted to give back. I wanted to give back because of the other adults had given to me. And I wanted to try and inspire younger children, even at the age of 18. So it's amazing how actually similar our things are. And looking now, townships in South Africa went on you go on a rugby. I went on a rugby tour, went to a township, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
It completely.
So you've been to the townships as well. What a great parallel. And
I've been to South Africa 3 or 4 times now. I've travelled around the world. I was in LA and Vancouver last year, and sometimes you forget where things start.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? I never intended at the tender age of 14 for it to turn into a career, or half of my adult life I've been doing this. And if we go back to the point originally, is that I didn't realize that my hobby, my adult life had consumed my hobby. So naturally, other hobbies started to emerge, which is really interesting, because it was originally, I wanted to be a pilot. I didn't mention I wanted to be a fighter pilot. That's how I got into the steel band and became a teacher, is because my eyesight failed me on the entry exam into the Royal Air Force. That was the real shove for me. It was still a hobby even at that time. It turned into a career, I think, because I was like, well, I need to do something. And Mum was starting to push me out the door, go and get a job, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if I can do something I love, then I'm already one step ahead of my mum, my dad, my sisters, and everyone else that I know, all the adults that hate their job. So that was really the kind of kicker for me, was getting into it because I loved it. Now, looking back, I would probably say that, it served me really well. It's taken me all around the world. I wish that I'd pulled back on it a little sooner and found what I do now earlier, because what I do now for a career with my business, for me, is way more satisfying than entertaining an audience, because I'm helping people get fit and healthy and feel good and look good. I get in so much satisfaction from that this is definitely not a hobby for me, and the steel pan is turning back into one. So I'm so grateful that I made that shift.
And I think now you've got your 2 passions back, because you've got your business, and actually, yes, you can lose. Things become strained when your hobby becomes a business, but and I also think it's sometimes when our hobbies do become our business, sometimes we don't even feel we work, because I know working with schools that I do, working with charities I do, working some of the workshops you run, I sit here and I go, I don't believe I'm actually being paid to do what I do. It's mind blowing. Right, last question for you, Dan. Last question. So if you came across someone who went, look, I haven't got a hobby, I don't know what I'm doing, what would you say to them? How would you help them find a hobby?
Well, do you know what, mate? I'm actually kind of stuck in this trap myself right now. I'm going to be really 100% honest and transparent. These guys are a hobby for me as well, my cats.
Yep.
Hello. They're always everywhere. I mean, she's always with me. She's literally been sat here the whole time, right next to me. But yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to find a new hobby myself. As I mentioned, my theme parks are closed. I could tell, honestly, I'm so geeky with that. I could look at a roller coaster and I can tell you the manufacturer. If it's got a launch on it, I know what type of launch it is. I can tell you what wheels they've got on the roller coaster cars, dependent on the weather. Like literally, I can go into geek mode, overload. I love going to theme parks because I love sharing that geekiness with people.
Love it.
And I can't go there, so I'm stuck. I'm looking for a hobby myself. What I would say is start to think about. I'm telling myself this more than anyone else, and hopefully it helps somebody else in their journey too. But I've got to start looking at what makes me happy again. Go back into my past and think about the experiences that got me going. Interestingly, I was on a 4N meeting yesterday, and a lovely lady, I think Karen Williams, and she was doing the foresight. And one of the things she mentioned, firstly, she's from Portsmouth, so am I. And I was like, oh, yeah, that perked me up. I was like, oh, someone from my hometown, even though I live in London. And then she went on to mention that she did a fire walk, and she loved it so much that she got involved in the fire walk team and started delivering the fire walks. Honestly, that sent me back to like 1999 when I stamped across hot coals. What a fantastic experience. Now, can I do that for a hobby? I'm not sure. I've just got to look at what makes me happy and then try and find a route out from there and just try and find the path. And something will jump out for sure when I'm ready.
Always the way. And I think it is where you said about looking back, completely agree with you. I think sometimes we stop hobbies because we grow up or we think as an adult we shouldn't be doing it. My thing is actually have a think about what you've done and why you've stopped. But also that bit of, find inspiration from other people, see what hobbies they do. The Facebook group that we've launched, there's some
I've already got ideas from there.
Brilliant. There's some amazing things that have come out from there because it's a safe place. There's no judgment. There's no judgment on anyone. If it's something that works for you and de-stresses you and relaxes you and makes you happy, then you know what? Let's do it.
Yeah. Do you know what that is for me at the moment? It's walking out in nature, getting my 10,000 steps in, because I know that I feel satisfied when I've done it. I can meditate while I'm walking through the woods. I can stop. It's like time isn't an issue. That's something that I really like doing, but I'd like to amplify that. Maybe cycling would be a good thing for me. Gary Gleason mentioned it in your group yesterday, cycling and photography. And I thought, wow, that's two really great choices for hobbies, particularly as photography can be something that could ultimately pay back your business. Your expertise that you'd learn through that as a hobby the opportunities from that are endless for a business owner.
Love it.
Who doesn't need professional photos or photographs of your products or photos at an event? Like, who doesn't need that?
Yeah, I love that. And it's amazing. We can take inspiration from the smallest things, the biggest things, but it is around, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, it's about making 2021 that year that we do it. And that we find those new things and we have a go and we do what we do. So, Dan, thank you so much for being my first ever guest. Hope you enjoyed it. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, /Dan Sadler UK. You can just search my name. I'll pop up. I'm all over the 4N community. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. Basically, I'm all over the place. Just tune in, give me a like, send me a friend request or a follow request, and I will repay you the favor. So it's great to connect with new people. You're right. 2021 is the year, Dom. Let's get it done. Let's do it. That's what this podcast is about, and hopefully people can take inspiration. Dan, thank you so much for agreeing to be my first ever guest. Hope it was fire. Hope you enjoyed it. And then I tell you what, we'll see you soon. Take care. Loved it, mate. Cheers.